Nina ran to Ronak and hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. I made a mistake by leaving you, Ronak. Please forgive me and take me back, she pleaded, her voice cracking with emotion. Ronak gently but firmly pulled away, his expression pained. Nina, I'm married now. There's no chance for us anymore, he replied, his voice heavy with finality. Rhea stood nearby, her eyes wide with surprise as she watched the scene unfold. She hadn't expected this confrontation and felt a pang of sympathy for Nina. Desperate, Nina turned to Rhea, her eyes filled with desperation. Rhea, please, tell Ronak to accept me back, she begged, her hands clasping Rhea's. Rhea was too shocked to respond immediately. The weight of the request left her momentarily speechless. Seeing no other escape, she turned and ran into our room, tears streaming down her face. Rhea's mind raced as she locked the door behind her. She sat on the edge of her bed, her heart pounding. The emotions swirling inside her were overwhelming: confusion, hurt, and a deep-seated fear about what this meant for her marriage. Meanwhile, Ronak stood in the hallway, watching Nina, with a mixture of sadness and resolve. Nina, he said softly, it's over. You need to move on. Nina's shoulders slumped in defeat. She wiped her tears, taking a deep breath. I'm sorry, Ronak, but this not end here, she whispered, her voice barely audible. She turned and left the house, leaving a heavy silence in her wake. Ronak sighed, running a hand through his hair. He walked to Rhea's room and knocked gently. Rhea, can we talk? He asked, his voice filled with concern. Inside, Rhea took a deep breath, wiping her tears. Come in, she said softly, bracing herself for the conversation to come. Ronak stepped into the room, closing the door gently behind him. Rhea sat on the bed, her eyes red from crying, but her gaze was steady as she looked at him. Ronak took a deep breath and sat down beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. Rhea, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't expect Nina to show up like that, he began, his voice filled with regret. Rhea looked down at her hands, twisting them in her lap. It's not your fault, Ronak. I didn't know what to say. She was so desperate. Ronak nodded, understanding the turmoil she must have felt. I know. Nina and I have a history, but it's over. I chose you, Rhea. I love you. Rhea's eyes flickered with emotion, but she remained silent. Ronak reached out, gently, taking her hand in his. Please believe me, Rhea. I never wanted to hurt you. Rhea took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly, as she spoke. It's just, seeing her like that, hearing her beg, it made me question everything. I need to know that you're with me completely, that there's no part of you still tied to her. Ronak squeezed her hand, his eyes earnest. I am with you, Rhea. Completely. Nina's past, you are my present and my future. Rhea nodded slowly, her resolve strengthening. All right. But we need to communicate better, Ronak. We need to be honest with each other about everything. Ronak agreed, feeling a sense of relief. Yes, we do. And we will. I promise. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the past hour slowly lifting. Rhea leaned into Ronak, resting her head on his shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. Just as they began to feel the peace of reconciliation, a loud knock echoed through the house. Ronak and Rhea exchanged worried glances. Who could it be now? Ronak stood up and walked to the door, opening it cautiously. Standing there was Mrs. Raachand, his face a mask of concern. Mom, what's wrong? Ronak asked, stepping aside to let him in. Mom glanced at Rhea, his expression tense. I came to check on you both. I saw Nina leaving, and she looked distraught. What happened? Ronak sighed, running a hand through his hair. Nina came by asking to get back together, but I made it clear that it's not possible. She didn't take it well. Mom nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I see. I just wanted to make sure you both are okay. Rhea stood up, joining them. We're fine, Mom. Thank you for checking on us. It's been a rough day, but we're handling it. Mom's gaze softened. I'm glad to hear that. If you need anything, just let me know. Ronak smiled, appreciating his mother's support. Thanks, Mom. We'll be all right. As Mrs. Rajchand left, Ronak closed the door and turned back to Ria. I think we should still go out today, get some fresh air and clear our minds. What do you say? Ria managed a small smile, feeling a bit lighter. I think that's a good idea. They got ready, the earlier tension slowly dissipating as they prepared for their day out. Stepping out into the sunshine, they felt a sense of renewal, ready to face whatever challenges came their way, together. As they walked hand in hand, Ria glanced at Ronak, feeling hopeful. Where are we going? Ronak grinned, a playful glint in his eyes. It's a surprise, Ria laughed, the sound light and freeing. I guess I'll just have to trust you, and you can, Ronak said softly, squeezing her hand. Always they walked on, the future uncertain but their bond stronger for the trials they had faced.